You know Donatella, right? I
Yeah.
mean, she's like the face of Versace, you know, all those iconic fashion moments. We think about the red carpets, J-Lo in that jungle dress,
Oh, yeah.
the whole shebang.
Right.
But get this,
What?
it looks like she's been pushed out of her own company.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, especially considering like how intertwined she is with the Versace brand.
Right,
You know,
right.
I mean, after Gianni's death, she really stepped up and kept that like bold, glamorous aesthetic alive.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to separate Donatella from Versace.
Totally.
That's what makes this whole thing so fascinating.
Yeah.
We're diving into a podcast called Name of Podcast from Source
Okay.
that really breaks down what went down, and buckle up
Oh, boy.
because this is where it gets really interesting. So you see,
Boy.
it all started back in 2018 when Michael Kors's parent company,
Mm-hmm.
Capri Holdings, bought Versace for a whopping $2.1 billion.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and at the time, like, they promised to maintain Versace's heritage
Yeah,
while also, like, expanding globally.
right.
It seemed like a pretty classic case of, like, you know, corporation trying to marry its ambitions with a creative vision.
Yeah.
But as we often see, those two things don't always mesh so well.
No, they don't. And that's kind of what our source is suggesting, right? Like that maybe Donatella ended up taking the fall for some of the brand struggles under Capri Holdings.
Okay.
There are like these whispers about financial pressures, Donatella losing creative control, and maybe even like a shift in the brand's direction.
Yeah.
That didn't quite sit well with her.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, Donatella was basically handed the reins after a tragedy, and she managed to maintain, like, Versace's DNA for years. But, like, could she really handle the pressure of these corporate giants
Right.
coming in with their spreadsheets
Right.
and demanding growth, you know?
Yeah, it's a valid question.
It is.
It makes you wonder if maybe Donatella was like stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like stay true to her artistic vision or give in to the demands of the corporate machine.
Yeah, if we look at other brands that Capri Holdings own, like Michael Kors himself,
Oh, yeah.
you see a pattern of, like, pushing for wider accessibility.
Yeah.
Even if that means, like, toning down some of the brand's original edge.
Totally.
Could that have been what was happening with Versace under Donatella's leadership?
That's a great point. And now,
But,
here's the kicker. The detail that makes this whole situation even more dramatic.
okay.
Donatella is reportedly banned from using her own last name,
Oh, wow.
Versace, in any future ventures.
Really?
Yeah, imagine building a legacy, becoming synonymous with a brand, and then being like legally barred from using your own name.
Wow, that definitely raises questions about power dynamics and, like, ownership
Yeah.
within the industry. I mean, Capri Holdings clearly wants to protect their investment, but it feels like they're trying to erase Donatella's contribution to the Versace story.
It's almost like they're saying you can't be Versace without us.
Right.
It makes you wonder if this kind of power struggle is more common in the fashion world than we realize.
Yeah, there's definitely a tension between the creatives who, like, build these brands
Uh-huh.
and the corporations that often come in and take over.
Right.
Sometimes it's a successful partnership, but other times
Yeah.
it feels like the artist gets pushed aside once the bottom line becomes the priority.
So where does that leave Versace if they're trying to move away from Donatella's vision? What will the brand even look like?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Will they stick with that, like, signature Versace boldness?
Yeah.
Or will they start playing it safe to appeal to a wider audience?
And what about Donatella? Can she even start her own label with this name ban in place? I mean, she's Donatella Versace.
Right.
What else would she even call it?
It's a tough situation.
Yeah.
The legal side of things is probably pretty complex, but I have a feeling we haven't seen the last of Donatella.
Oh, yeah.
She's a fighter, she's built an empire, and I doubt she'll go down without a fight.
So what we're seeing here is more than just a designer leaving a fashion house. This is about legacy, creative control,
Right.
and the power dynamics that shape entire industries.
And it really makes you think about the brands you support
Yeah.
and the people behind them.
Yeah.
What compromises are they making?
Right.
Who really benefits when art and commerce collide?
Okay, so we've got a fashion icon potentially ousted from her own empire.
Yeah.
A brand at a crossroads, and a whole lot of unanswered questions.
Crazy.
What happens next is anyone's guess, but one thing's for sure, this is a story we need to keep our eyes on.
For sure.
We'll be right back after a short break. It's almost like we're watching this like high-stakes game of chess,
Yeah.
right? You've got Donatella,
Yeah.
who's been a major player in the fashion world for decades.
Right.
And then you have these corporate giants making their moves. It makes you wonder, is there even room for someone like Donatella in today's fashion landscape?
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
The industry has changed so much, even in the last, 10 years.
Yeah.
Fast fashion, social media trends, the rise of influencers.
Mm-hmm.
It's all happening at lightning speed.
Yeah.
And while Donatella has certainly, adapted and evolved over the years,
Yeah.
she's also known for her strong, uncompromising vision.
And that vision built an empire.
It did.
But I guess the question is, can that same vision thrive under corporate control?
It's hard to say. There are certainly examples of brands that have managed to maintain their identity after being acquired.
Right.
But there are also plenty of cautionary tales where the original magic gets lost in the pursuit of profits.
It makes me think about other designers who have had similar experiences,
Yeah.
like Tom Ford leaving Gucci after it was bought by PPR, for example.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Or even Hedi Slimane's dramatic revamp of Yves Saint Laurent,
Uh-huh.
which some saw as a betrayal of the brand's heritage.
Right. Those are just a few examples. And it seems like there's always this tension
Yeah.
between the artist and the business. The desire to create something beautiful and unique
Right.
versus the pressure to sell, sell, sell.
And with Donatella, it feels even more personal because she's not just a designer.
Yeah.
She's the face of Versace. She embodies that whole glamorous, over-the-top aesthetic. It's hard to imagine the brand without her.
It's true. She's become so synonymous with Versace
Yeah.
that it's almost impossible to separate the two.
All right.
And this name band just adds another layer to the story.
Yeah.
It feels like a way of silencing her,
Yeah.
of preventing her from continuing her legacy.
But Donatella has never been one to back down from a challenge.
True.
I wouldn't be surprised if she finds a way to reinvent herself, maybe even create something completely unexpected.
I agree. She's a survivor, and she has an incredible network in the industry.
Yeah.
It would be foolish to underestimate her, and I think a lot of people would be very interested to see what she does next.
Imagine Donatella free from any corporate constraints, just unleashed to create whatever she wants.
Right.
It could be revolutionary.
It's definitely a possibility, and it will be a fascinating study in how a creative force can adapt and thrive
Yeah.
outside of the traditional system.
So while Capri Holdings might have control of the Versace name, they don't have control over Donatella's talent or her spirit.
Right.
And that, to me, is what makes this whole story so compelling.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that true creativity can't be contained or controlled.
Right.
And it makes you wonder if Donatella does make a comeback.
Yeah.
Will it be even bigger and bolder than before?
Well, if her past is any indication, I wouldn't bet against her. It's funny, we've been talking about Donatella's legacy and the future of Versace.
Right.
But what really strikes me is how this whole situation is a reflection of what's happening in the wider world, too.
How so?
Well, how big corporations are gaining more and more influence,
Yeah, I see what you mean.
It's not just in fashion. It's everywhere you see it, in tech, in media, even in food.
Right.
It feels like these huge companies are swallowing up everything,
Yeah.
leaving less and less room for independent voices.
It is a valid concern, and it raises questions about how we value creativity and originality
Right.
in a world that's increasingly driven by profit margins and market share.
Think about it. Donatella built Versace into this global phenomenon.
She did.
She took risks. She pushed boundaries. She created a brand that was instantly recognizable and undeniably powerful. And now it feels like she's being punished for that same boldness.
It's almost like she's become a victim of her own success.
Yeah.
Yeah. She created something so valuable that it became a target, like a prize to be won
Right.
in this corporate game of chess.
And what does that say about the fashion industry? Is there even still space for the mavericks, the visionaries,
Right.
the people who are willing to break the rules and challenge the status quo?
I think there always will be, because at the end of the day, fashion is about self-expression.
It's about individuality, and people are always hungry for something new, something authentic.
So maybe this is an opportunity for a new wave of designers to emerge.
Yeah.
People who are inspired by Donatella's fearlessness, but also understand the realities
Right.
of the modern fashion landscape.
That would be exciting to see a new generation that can navigate the complexities of the industry
Yeah.
while still staying true to their artistic vision.
And who knows, maybe this is Donatella's chance to completely reinvent herself.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll come back with a new venture that just shakes up the whole system.
I wouldn't be surprised. She's always been ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And she has a loyal following who I'm sure would be eager to see what she does next.
So what should our listeners be thinking about after this deep dive? Well, it's more than just a juicy fashion story, you know? It's
Right.
about recognizing the forces at play in the creative world,
Yeah.
questioning the balance of power,
Uh-huh.
and maybe even challenging your own assumptions about the brands you support. It's about appreciating the artistry and the individuals behind the labels,
Yeah.
and maybe even wondering what Donatella's next move will be, because one thing's for sure, she's not done making a statement.
That's the beauty of it all, isn't it? Even in the face of corporate giants and legal battles, creativity finds a way, and we can't wait to see what Donatella comes up with next.